Alicematic Heroes, a new game by Japanime, 3 to 5 players, plays in about an hour, considerably less once the players know how to play, probably around 40-45 minutes. You can easily get a game in within that range. This is a game with a very strange theme. It has to be one of the strangest themes in any game in my collection. Wonderland is under attack by hordes of Alices, different versions of Alice. Maybe Wonderland is at the intersection of several parallel worlds. Maybe a mad scientist has been cloning Alices. Nevertheless, there are a lot of Alices around. They specialize in doing different things, and they're not just there to join hands and sing Kumbaya and hang out together. They mean business. They are leading armies and they try to take control of different regions of Wonderland. What? I envy the people that manage to dream up such themes. Their mind must be a very interesting place. This is a game that requires some suspension of disbelief when it comes to the theme, even considering that it is Alice in Wonderland. So that's quite something. The rulebook describes the game as a tactical war game, not by my standards in any sense of the word. To me, this is a Euro game with an engine building element. You will play cards, and that will have long-term effects on what you can do and the resources that you get, and then you use those resources to deploy units on the board. Yes, but again, it's supposed to be combat, but it feels fairly abstract. You are still positioning pieces on the board in order to achieve majority in certain areas. So there is area control and area majority elements. Let me show you more in detail how Alicematic Heroes works. The board is made using these tiles here, which contain 7 areas. An area in the middle, which represents a city, and there is a number of figures there indicating how many players they may have a presence in that city, and then 6 surrounding areas representing different regions of Wonderland that our Alices are going to try to control. The color indicates the type of reward that you're gonna get for invading that area. The number that you see there is the defense number. You need to have strength equal to or higher than the defense number to attack that area. These are special areas, the dark wood, very dangerous, full of dark energies. You cannot launch an attack through that area or into that area until the area is completely surrounded by areas controlled by the players, and only then can the players attack that area. So when you, at the beginning of the game, you shuffle these tiles and you put a number of them randomly on the table. The size and configuration of the board depends on the number of players. This is a very simple configuration for 3 players, for example. For 4 players, you add 2 extra tiles, and so then the shape would be like this. And as you can imagine, since you're not going to use all tiles every time, and the orientation may change from game to game, that may originate very different maps. There's great replay value here. And depending on where the tiles end up being in the orientation, yes, the map does change. Each player controls an iconic character from Alice in Wonderland. For example, here we have creepy Humpty Dumpty. And suppose that I'm playing this character, then I have a set of tokens that I will place on the board to attack areas to indicate that I control a certain area. These tokens are double-sided. This side up means that I have control of that area. This side here means that the area is under attack. It's a form of like reserving that area. It's not quite mine yet. It can still be taken from me, but if people are trying to take it from somebody who has reserved it, has placed it under attack, it's a little harder. At the beginning of the game, the players will place 2 of their control tokens in cities around the edge. Suppose that they want to do this and that. Remember, multiple players may be in the same city if that is allowed by the number of meeples in the city. And then the game is almost ready to start. And you have this deck of cards here. You shuffle them together at the beginning, and then you give a hand of 5 to each player. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, for example. All green. Let me get a little more variety. Suppose that this is what we have. This is my initial hand of cards. Where am I going to play the cards, you're going to ask? Well, I don't know if you're going to ask that, but I'm going to tell you. Each player has 5 cards that match the symbol of their character, and these cards are placed face up in their area. They're in their play area. They're not really used as cards. You can think of them as slots in a board. All that you do with these cards is to play cards on top of them, and the card will have different effects based on where you place it, and we'll talk about that later. But at the beginning of your turn, you always start by playing a card from your hand. You can play any of the cards that you have in your hand as a commoner, just an average, undescribed, unnamed character, in which case you simply take a card and you place it face down, well, with the commoner side face up, in any of your slots. Suppose that I decide to place this card here. When you play a card as a commoner, you immediately replenish your hand by drawing a card from the deck. This is if you play cards as commoners. Again, simply put it face down. Maybe next turn I want to do that, and then I draw another card, and then the following turn I do this, and I draw another card, and so on and so forth. But as you can see, there is stuff printed on the other side. There are various Alices, and these Alices are represented by very charming, very fun illustrations. And they do the Jet Alices. There are just so many different ones. They're really, really fun, really entertaining, and with a lot of effects, as you can see. If you just pause each time that I show you an Alice, you can read the text and get a sense of the variety of effects that these characters can generate. So you will want to play cards so that the Alice side face up, and you can gain the corresponding ability. How do you do so? To play an Alice card face up, you need to have dream points. That is, you need to pay the cost of the card printed in the top left corner of the card in dream points. Dream points are generated by cards in this slot. If I had 2 of them right now, I had 2 dream points. And when I play a card, I don't need to actually spend them. I just need to demonstrate that I have them. Also, there may be game effects that will give me tokens that correspond to the same resource. So these tokens give me dream points. Suppose that this is my play area right now. I could play a card with a value up to 4. So I can summon an Alice because I have 2 dream points here, and I spend these 2 resources. And when you play an Alice, again, you need to pay the cost using dream points, and then you need to play the card in the corresponding slot. Red with red, green with green, and so on and so forth. And suppose that, yes, I paid all of those points because I want to get Valkyrie Alice there. Super tough, that lady. So this is how you play Alice's face up. The red will give you combat abilities. The green usually give you movement or ability to manipulate green tokens. Because there are 3 types of tokens. Red, which again can generate the same points as cards in the red slot. Green, same idea, generates resource tokens in the green category. And then these are the 2 cards, 2 other things. These cards here allow you to summon Alices face up. This card here allows you to draw cards from the deck. This is very important. Again, the cards that you place there allow you to draw cards from the deck. Because when you play a card face down as a commoner, you replenish your hand. But when you place a card face up as an Alice, you do not draw a card. So from 5, I place an Alice, I'm down to 4. I place another Alice, I'm down to 3. So my hand is going to get empty unless I can replenish it using game effects. And using the blue slot is a good way of doing so. Cards that you place here will activate this effect. Again, you may place them there as commoner or face up if the color matches. Cards that are here will generate the various effects and also will generate victory points, but they're not useful for anything else. So this is the area where you'll create your engine of resources. After you do so, it is time for you to attack. Hooray! So after you place your card down and possibly draw a replacement, you are going to attack an area on the board. To attack an area, you indicate a city where you have a presence that you will use as the starting point of your attack, and then you will indicate that area that you are attacking. In order to win a fight, you need to have enough strength points, these red points, to match or exceed the defense value. So to attack that one, for example, I will be able to do so, because if you remember, I had 2 cards in my red slot. The cards that are here produce strength points to attack. So I have, until the situation is like this, I have 2 points to attack every round. If I have these tokens from previous actions, I have extra things. So just with my 2, I could attack that one. With my 2 plus a resource, I could attack that one. Some don't cost any points to attack. Whenever you manage to successfully attack an area, suppose I decide to go there, then you place a token face down. And maybe next turn I decide to attack this one, and then the following turn I decide to attack there. If I have enough food. When you're attacking within the tile of the city that you're using as a starting point, you do not need to worry about supplies. As you attack further places, you need to produce food, and that is produced by cards placed in the green slot of your engine. Each card that is there produces a point of food and allows you to travel one region from your city. So to get here again, if adjacent to my city, I don't need any food. To get 2 spaces ahead, I need 2 points of food. And again, you can produce that by demonstrating that you have sufficient cards in your green slot and or using green resources. There is an advantage in creating supply lines like this, that is in having controlled areas that are connected to a city, because then other people cannot attack you. Usually you can attack any area on the board as long as you have enough food to create a supply line, as long as it's not a dark wood. Also, you can attack areas controlled by an opponent if the area is unconnected to their city. So somebody could attack this area here if they have enough resources to demonstrate that they control, and they take it from me, but they would not be able to take these 2 areas because they are connected to the city. So you can attack enemies' areas only if they're unconnected to a city that they control or where they have a presence. Also, if you do not have enough resources to take control of a place, but you really want to kind of reserve it, then you place one of your control tokens face down with this side face up. And again, that simply means that you have a little bit of priority there. You may take control of it next turn. Other people can still take it from you, but they have to take it in a single action. That is, they cannot put it under attack and then do it the following time. It's sort of like soft reserve. It's very easy in actuality to do, or to beat other people's under attack tokens. Now, this is pretty much the basic idea of how you attack. Of course, you also want resources. That is, you also want rewards for attacking places. If you attack a red, green, or yellow area, that is, if you notice the areas that correspond to the resource tokens that I mentioned so far, you will get red, yellow, or green tokens. Red for attacking a red area, green for attacking a green area, yellow for attacking a green area. How many do you get? You get a number of resources of that area equal to the number of cards that you have in the corresponding slot. So if I take control of a red area, it doesn't matter the defense number. That has nothing to do with my reward. If I take control of a red area, I'm gonna get 2 red resource tokens because right now I have 2 cards there. If I take control of a green area right now, I am going to get 3 green resources because I have 3 cards in that slot. Yellow area, 2 resources right now. If I take control of a blue area, I'm gonna get the reward connected to my blue slot here, and it means that I'm gonna draw from the deck a number of cards equal to, maybe you guessed it, the number of cards that I have here in the blue area of my engine. So if I take control of a blue area, and this is my situation, I'm gonna draw 3 cards from the deck. Very important if my hand has shrunk, like Alice after drinking her magic potion or eating the magic carrot. I don't remember which one it is. If your hand has shrunk because you played a lot of Alices without replenishing your hand. If you take control of a white area on the board, the immediate reward that you get is a number of victory points equal to the number of cards that you have there. The game continues for 14 turns. There isn't a turn track in the game, so it's kind of annoying to keep track of the 14 turns. Yes, you have 14 attack markers, so you can think, well, at the end, when we play the last one, the game is over, but it may be that somebody places a token under attack, and so when that happens, that means that that turn the person is not spending a token. So it's just you may have cases where players do not have the same number of tokens. Usually the player that has the most is probably the one that whose number corresponds to the number of turns, but it would have been easy to have a turn track where you simply move a token and you know exactly how many turns you are into the game. The game comes with a first player token. They could have just printed a turn track here with 14 slots, and that would have been very simple, but alas, that didn't happen. Maybe it's on the back. No, it's not on the back. You play for 14 players and then you score points. You score points based on control of tiles. The player with the majority on a certain area gets to score 6 points. Second player gets to score 3 points. If there is a tie, the tiebreaker is the number of Alices. There is the number of Alice cards that are actually face up in your engine area. Then, so you check every area on the board, and you give majority to each player based on that. The players probably will have acquired some victory points through game effects. They also may gain victory points from certain cards placed in the white area at the end of the game. Also, for each slot, you check who has the majority of Alices in that area. Say I have 1 Alice in red and an opponent has 3 and an opponent has 2. Then the player with the 3 red Alices wins, has the majority in that slot, and scores a number of points equal to the Alices that they have there. So in that case, in this example, the player will score 3 points. And we go like this for each slot, checking who has the most Alices. Again, an Alice is a face-up card. Who has the most Alices, and the player scores a number of points equal to the number of Alices in the category under exam. You sum points the players collect from every possible source, and at the point, the player with the highest total victory points is the winner of the game. I saw online that people have commented that Alicematic Heroes is very similar to a game called Deus. That's a game that unfortunately I haven't played, so I won't be able to compare the two. But I looked online for some pictures of Deus, and the game does look very similar to Alicematic. Visually, the board looks very similar, the components look very similar. Is gameplay the same? I don't know. I haven't played that game. I haven't even looked at the rules, so I won't be able to comment in this review. I'm only going to talk about Alicematic Heroes. If you know the other game too, please feel free to add your opinion in the comments of this video. Just let us know what you think is going on here, if there are a lot of similarities or not. Alicematic Heroes, again, conclusions based on this game's merits only. I have a couple of quibbles with the production. I already mentioned the fact that there isn't a turn track that could have been so easily achieved, but that's a minor thing. I used 2 10-sided dice, and I used that to keep track of how many turns we're playing. Another quibble that I have with the components is in the fact that the board is very busy. Yes, it looks great, but it really is visually chromatically busy, and the problem is that the tokens that the players have are 2-dimensional flat cardboard tokens that tend to blend in quite easily. It's easy to forget where you have some of your pieces. If you have a blue piece in a blue area, a red piece in a red area, that confuses confusion. It can easily happen. You realize, oh, wait a second, look at all those enemy pieces that were stealthily surrounding my areas, and I simply didn't really see them, or I overlooked them. So you had to pay a lot of attention. You had to look at the board, I think, more up close, more intently than you should. A temptation that I have is simply to replace the cardboard tokens with cubes. At least they would stand up from that. They would, be in relief from the board. That would make it more easily to see at a glance where everybody is, where the connections are. And it's very important. I place maybe a piece that in an area that is not connected to my city, and literally players were thinking about their own strategy and they don't notice it. They should see it right away, because it's a very dangerous move that I'm making, and they should be able to counterattack and take it from me if they so wish. Yes, when you take away an area from an opponent, I didn't mention this, you only get half of the usual reward, but you're depriving an opponent of an area, and that can be very satisfying. So there are a couple of small things here and there about the production. I just, again, wish there was more contrast between the board and the game pieces. Couple of other very small things that we don't need to mention those. But talking about gameplay, I like it very much. Again, I don't know how similar it is to Deus, but this gameplay here is really fun. Now, it's not that easy to teach. Once players know what they're doing, the game flows very well. But trust me, for a long time during your first game, and maybe still the second, it will be hard for the players not to make a connection between the value of an area, the defensive value, and the reward that they gain. They take control of 3 areas. The area they'll think that scores them 3 points or gets them 3 resources, etc., etc. Well, that is not the case unless you have 3 cards in that slot for that type of area. Somehow, it's something that is very hard to unlearn. I taught this to the other players, and I was still doing it. Oh, look, I got a 3 area. Give me 3 red resources. Oh, wait a second. No, I only have 2 cards there. Oopsie doopsie. It's counterintuitive in that sense, in the sense that there is almost like a disconnection between some elements of the design, like a mechanical, conceptual disconnection. But then when the game starts moving, actually, it is pretty engaging. It flows well. I would say there is an apparent disconnection as you learn the game, but then the interaction, the synergy between what happens in your engine area and what happens on the board is very effective, is very tight. And I really like the fact that there are many different viable strategies, definitely many paths to victory. You may build a big engine, spend a lot of create an engine with a lot of drain points out of cards in the yellow slot, and then you're also attacking yellow areas, so you get more yellow resources, so that you can drop pretty much the atomic bomb Alices. You can drop the most powerful Alices on the board. But because it took you so long, maybe you'll have 2-3 Alices total, as opposed to, and that's great. Those Alices are worth. But then you have another player that maybe has been playing 0 value Alices, 1 value Alices. That's down to like a very small hand or maybe a 1 card, but has a lot of those Alices. That gives them the tiebreaker, which is powerful. That gives them a lot of small effects. So going for a few mega powerful Alices or a lot of not so powerful Alices, they're both viable under the circumstances. I mean, the general idea, what is also always good, is to take control of a lot of places, a lot of areas. But again, there are different ways of doing so. Sometimes you do that by cutting off areas where the opponents are trying to go, and then either they move somewhere else or have to jump over your units. It is possible to do so. They can build past the line that you have, but then they are unconnected to cities, and that exposes them to danger. You can try, again, just to get in other players' ways, you can try to surround forests, and that takes a while, but also can be very valuable. When you surround the forest and you finally attack it, the defensive value of the forest and the victory points that you get are equal to the number of areas surrounding the forest. That is, if it's in the middle of the board, that would be 6 areas. It can be on an edge, and then it is simply surrounded by 3, easier to take and less valuable. You can use game effects, so you can jump through forests. So when it comes to playing on the map, again, the general idea, try to have a big presence in a lot of places. can be played out in a variety of ways. Also, the fact that there is silver medal for the second is very important. There was a game in which I won and I didn't have majority almost anywhere, but I was second almost everywhere. So the idea of like, well, towards the last game, I'm gonna maybe, now take a chance and send an attack really far just to sneak a single point, a single token in an area where my opponent has already 5, but there's only one opponent. So with that little lousy token, I am second and I still score 3 points, which is not bad at all. Playing cards in your white slot area, which is the area that generates victory points during the game, and where you may place Alices that will give you points at the end of the game, can be good, can give you points. But again, what I really like is the fact, again, many paths to victories, many possible strategies, and you always feel like you're just short of resources, which is good. Being always wanting for more resources is a good feeling when you're playing a game, because that makes the game challenges, makes your decisions non-trivial, makes your commitment to certain strategies relevant. So I like the fact that pretty much when your engine is strong, now I could take control of that in that place, I could attack that city, destroy that darkwood. When that happens, pretty much is when the game is over. 14 turns is, to me, just the right length for the game in terms of actual length of time. The game plays in under an hour, 40 minutes easily when the players know the game. But it's also conceptually the right length, because the game starts slow and just playing a card and playing a 0 value Alice, and maybe play another 0 value Alice, and now my hand is already small, so I'm gonna play cards in the blue area that gives me more cards. But meanwhile, I'm neglecting my attacks, and so I can only attack very weak areas. And okay, I give myself a little bit of attack, and now I could attack bigger places, but I don't have any food, and I took control of all the areas in my place. So you always feel like there is something that is missing from your engine, which is great. Again, is exactly what I want in a game. And the game ends just when that psychological incentive to play is less powerful. When you start having a good presence in all places of the engine, in most places of the engine, the game is over, and that's exactly when the game should end. Scoring is not that hard. You just look at every tile and you assign points, etc., etc. So it's a really good game. I like the many paths to victory. I like the interaction of the cards. I like the challenges that come from creating an efficient engine. And again, it's not just a matter of falling in love with a single algorithm, although maybe there is a certain algorithm of playing cards that will tend to give you victory. But then the other players may block you in a certain area, may do other stuff, may use game effects to affect you. Oh, there's a certain backstabbing element, as players can attack each other, yes, but can also steal resources, do also the negative things, flip each other's cards. So there's also that interaction. It's not a multiplayer solo at all. Although your little engine is your own little cute thing, there are ways of getting in the ways of other players, and ways in which you should defend from other players that really make the game interesting. So I just like it. It's really fun. The people I played it with also enjoyed it. They were a little suspicious at the beginning. Maybe the cutesy art made me think that this would just be like a fluffy game. But this is a game with some serious strategy, with a lot of replay value due to the variable map and the different strategies that you can test from time to time by concentrating your efforts in one category of your engine rather than another. Maybe one small thing that I'm a little bit skeptical or mixed feelings about the game effects. Not all Alices are born equal. Now, of course, some Alices are more expensive, so you may expect their power to be stronger, and some are less expensive, so their power to be weaker. That makes sense. But there are just some powers that are not particularly interesting objectively, whereas other powers are very good. They're not very expensive. They don't seem to be as balanced as I expect them to be, so that all would be equally interesting under certain circumstances. I invest a lot to get something that is good a lot. There are some cards that are very expensive and their power is not that much better than those of the cheap ones, so I don't think that those will be use very often, and then there are some cheap effects that are simply not all that interesting, so you don't want to reduce your hand of cards because of that. What I'm trying to say is that there are certain analyses that people have never played face up, and people never expressed that, oh, I really wish I could play this one face up. Some analyses definitely seem better than others, and some analyses will almost always be played as commoners, but that's a small detail, because as is, even though not all analyses seem to be equally interesting, the game is pretty fun. You have enough good, interesting, powerful aliases to tempt you to play them face up with all of the expenditure of resources that you need to do. You have enough of those to make the game interesting. Overall, Alicematic Heroes is a really good game. I don't know how similar it is to Deus, but I know that per se, in itself, this is a good game.